Morning, everybody, from a cold and wet Perth. I imagine it's much nicer up in Noosa. Wish I was there enjoying the sunshine and the comradeship. Look, we're going to talk about Poseidon for the next 15 minutes. Really exciting story, and following on from Mark this morning, we've really got an exciting opportunity in nickel sulphide, as he obviously does as well. The disclaimer, which you can read at your leisure. Just a quick company overview. So we've kind of got 3 assets, all of which have been previous mines. The old Windara, which was the original Poseidon asset. The Black Swan project, which I worked on when I was at MPI sort of 25 years ago, which ended up inside of Lion Ore, and then Norilsk, and the Lake Johnson asset as well. If you add all those together, we've got about 400,000 tonnes in JORC resource. We've got 2 processing plants, a 1.5 million tonne plant at Lake Johnson on care and maintenance in very good condition, and also a sort of a, if you like, a sort of an option on 3 different processing plants at Black Swan. The original 150,000 tonne Silver Swan processing circuit, which I was involved in the original construction of in 1997. Then there's the 600,000 tonne processing plant that was built when Lion Ore owned the asset, and then there's the 2 million tonne processing plant that was built by the Norilsk group, which are all in very, very good condition. We've also got about 180,000 ounces of gold in tailings, and we're just in the process of finalising the feasibility study for that asset at a very nice time in the gold pricing cycle that nearly took $2,500 an ounce. And we've also got an option over another 60,000 ounces of gold at a much better grade just up the road at Lansfield. So some really exciting assets in 2 commodities which are really shooting the lights out in terms of pricing. If you add to that the recent discovery of the what we're calling ultra high grade, I mean obviously anything above sort of 5% is considered very high grade, gold and Swan material, plus the Silver Swan resource and reserve which is already there, and you know, a lot of potential production scenarios that we're currently looking at as we look to get firstly Black Swan back into production again after a sort of a 10-year hiatus. So that's a quick summary. Let me just run through the board. So Derek Lafearle and myself, Dean representing Black Mountain, our biggest shareholder, Felicity representing the forest interests, Peter Michelli. Obviously, most of you will know Peter, ex-managing director of Mincor, you know, very heavily involved in the discovery of their Cassini asset, and Peter's been a great attribute to the board. It's been on for about 12 months just after I joined. And Brendan, our CFO, very experienced in resources. So we've got a great team. Our current share price, I didn't look this morning, but I think it's around about 10 cents. So that's a market capitalisation of close to 300 million. And at the end of March, we had $15 million in the bank. We've obviously used up a bit of that with the drilling resource, the drilling of the resource, but we're still well funded. Black Mountain, nearly 20%, Forest about 15%. And we've actually had a new investor arrive on the register with about 2% of the company has bought all of that, or they have bought all of that on market over the last sort of 3 months. So that's been fantastic actually to see a new investor come on board. And you can see our share price is tracking the nickel price, and obviously with some of the discoveries you can see it pop up there, but we're certainly performing like most nickel stocks, you know, obviously tracking the nickel price. So let's talk about nickel and the demand for it. Everyone knows about the nickel demand in electric vehicles, and obviously everyone's now going hammer and tong to get out of internal combustion engines and into electric vehicles. And basically every motor car manufacturer in the world now is switching production across to electric vehicles, probably faster than what everyone had first anticipated. I guess the slide that I like is this one here. This is a Glencore produced slide, so they are talking their own book to some extent, but fundamentally I don't think anyone would disagree with the numbers here. So if you look at nickel there, the second bar chart, current nickel demand is around about 2.5 million tonnes of nickel. That was a 2019-2020 number. You can see that the forecast by 2050 is over 9 million tonnes. It's a 4 times increase. It's the biggest increase of any base metal, and it's because of electric vehicles and also strong stainless steel demand. I mean, stainless steel is where nickel most of the nickel currently goes. 70% of the world's nickel goes into making stainless steel, and that has been growing compound since 1970, about 5% per annum. So, you've only got to have another. So that's been underpinning the nickel price for many years, but now you've got a completely new consumer, being the electric vehicle sector and the nickel lithium hydride battery. And that's just going to be a massive increase. And I think a lot of people are a bit concerned about where all the nickel is going to come from. And I think you are going to see a lot of assets like ours back producing again to basically fill up that production requirement, because the demand is definitely there and it's going to grow. And I don't think anyone disputes the numbers that Glencore put up there for copper, nickel, cobalt, any of the commodities required for making the electric vehicles. But no, nickel is still underpinned by a very, very robust demand for stainless steel. And even Jaguar have come out now and said basically, all electric by 2025, and the government there 2030. So I think 2030 seems to be the sort of 25 to 30 of the magic numbers, and that's where everyone's going to be electric by then. Talking about Black Swan first, our primary asset. That's a photograph of the processing plant, and you can see it's a massive bit of kit. You've got the two mills in the foreground there. That's the 2 million tonne processing plant. You can't even see the 150,000 tonne plant. It's tucked in the middle there, and then the 600,000 tonne plant is at the back there near those two. You can see the mills there just running sort of crossways. It's in very, very good condition. It's been well maintained. We spend money on it every year to make sure that it doesn't sort of fall apart, and it's in good nick. Production-wise, there's been a lot of nickel produced out of Black Swan, nearly 200,000 tonnes of nickel in concentrate over that sort of 15-year period from 1997 to 2010, when it was closed by Norilsk at the low nickel prices. We've still got about 16,000 tonnes of high-grade nickel at Silver Swan, running about 9.5% in resource. And we've also now got, this new discovery at Golden Swan, which I'll talk about in a minute. So our focus here is drilling out the Golden Swan mineralisation to get a resource and then hopefully a reserve, continuing to explore on the terrace, and then obviously making a decision to restart as soon as we can. I'll take you back to 1995. There's a couple of blokes there that are still around. David Burt in the middle was the managing director, he was the exploration director at MPI, and he discovered the original Silver Swan ore body, and that's him holding up the first intersection, which was averaging about 14% nickel. In 5 months, we drilled out that resource, and it was 440,000 tonnes at 14%, 60,000 tonnes of nickel. I think probably the highest grade ore body discovered, certainly in Western Australia, and that was a mine within 2 years. And I was lucky to be involved in that, and that's where I sort of cut my teeth in nickel. So if we now scroll forward to today, here's a view of where we are, where Silver Swan is, and you can see the Silver Swan channel in red has been mined out all the way down to about 1,200 metres below surface there. The purple is where we have the current Silver Swan, 16,000 tonnes of 9.5% material. And over on the in the middle there, you can see where we're drilling now in the southern terrace. And the breakout there, you can see the sort of the three original discovery holes, which were the sort of 9, 10 and 8% material over about 6 or 7 metres, over about 170 by 60 metre EM plate. So we put the drive in recently, and we've been drilling. And some of the results that we've been getting, this was updated last week. You can see there 3 metres of 6, 3 at 5.5, 17 at 3, 10 at 3, 9 at 3, including, and 31 at 2, 5.5, and we had a good result last week, 2 at 14, and then a bit of material further on, 14 at 1. So certainly we're proving up that there is a decent mineralised system down here over that sort of 170 metre by 60 metre area that the original EM plate pulled up. And that drilling is going to continue now for another couple of weeks until we finish the program. We had planned to do about 13,000 metres. We'll probably end up doing about 15,000, but we'll certainly finish it by the end of July. The metallurgy is very positive, and you can see there's a huge opportunity still within the southern terrace. There's a sort of 300 metre wide area we think that's prospective. Peter Michelli calls it the Peppermint Grove address for exploration. And so we hope that we can prove him right. And I think we'll be drilling and testing here for quite some time to come. And there's also the other work that we're doing, which is the metallurgy, and also the processing plants. Because we've actually got the processing plants there, we actually want to see if we can restart those. One option with Golden Swan and Silver Swan is to sell ore as direct shipping ore. The other option is to restart the concentrators. There's certainly the small concentrator for the high-grade material, and we've got GR Engineering just finishing off the study on that CapEx and OpEx at scoping study level, so we'll release that to the market as soon as it's ready. And obviously what we'll have to do is weigh up, and then the other one is the 1.1 million tonne plant. So that's the 2 million tonne plant derated to about 1 million tonnes a year. And the idea there would be to, given the nickel price at $8.50 and the outlook positive going forward, we could mine the low-grade Black Swan disseminated open pit, which runs at about 0.6 or 0.7, and potentially feed in some higher-grade Windara material that runs between 1 and 1.5%. We would truck that down from Windara and put it through the processing plant. So lots of options. We need to study all of those and then obviously present those to the board and release those to the market. But that's the work that we're doing at the moment, and that's the focus of the Black Swan project. We've talked about the potential for shipping DSO. There's also the concentrate model, and we're looking at both of those. The natural buyer for direct shipping ore would be BHP, and we're obviously in discussions with them. In terms of a timetable, pretty much unchanged from the previous one. We're looking to get to a decision point by the end of this year, and if we did that, we'd be in production in 2022. Just quickly then on Lake Johnson, there's the 1.5 million tonne processing plant at Lake Johnson. Lake Johnson has had nearly, well, over 100,000 tonnes of nickel in ore, and obviously with the metallurgical recovery, sort of a bit less than that in terms of concentrate. But Emily Ann was a high-grade 3.5% ore body. Maggie Hayes was a lower-grade ore body at about 0.6 when they mined it. There's still 3.5 million tonnes at 1.5% in Maggie Hayes. We've done a feasibility or a scoping study on that, and at these sort of prices, that would be a profitable operation. So, you know, a lot of optionality there. We've been working out what to do in terms of exploration. We've had a lot of approaches from people that are interested in joint venturing with us, buying the asset off us. We could also IPO it. We haven't made a decision yet, but we're certainly interested. What we are doing is doing a full technical review of New Mexico is doing it for us, of all the targets there for drilling. And once that's finished and we can interpret that, it's due at the end of this month, then we can make some more decisions about which way forward here. But another huge option on the nickel price here. And then finally, we've got also Windara. That's a shot of the old Windara mill that ran in the 1980s. They pulled about, or Western Mining did pull about 84,000 tonnes of nickel in concentrate over about nearly an 8-9 year period. We still have about 140,000 tonnes of nickel at between 1.5 and 1.6%, plus the gold that I talked about. The gold processing would need its own on-site facility, and there's no processing plant there for nickel, so we'd have to truck that all down to Black Swan, and that's what we're looking at the moment. So again, lots of optionality there. Watch out for the DFS on the gold. That should be out any day now. So look, in summary, we've got a lot of work to do over the next, certainly for the rest of this calendar year. We want to deliver the maiden Golden Swan resource and obviously convert that to a reserve, and obviously finalise our plans there. We want to drill test more of the Southern Terrace and see if there are more Golden Swan high-grade mineralised systems there. We want to do more work on Silver Swan. We're ready to drill that out. There's a big resource there, 16,000 tonnes of nickel at 9%. Smaller reserve, about 6,000 tonnes, but we know that with more drilling we can actually increase the reserve, so we want to do that as a matter of priority, and then complete those scoping studies that GR have been doing on the 150 and the 1.1 million tonne case. Windara, we want to do the study on trucking the ore down to Black Swan and putting it through the plant there, and we want to get that BFS out on the gold tailings. And then Lake Johnson is basically finalise that review and work out what to do with that asset. You know, do we bring a partner in? Do we do it ourselves? Do we spin it out? Lots of options there. A really exciting time for the company.